These are all the punk genres that could find an active following online, starting with Aetherpunk. Magic helped build and is part of society. It makes up the technology like flying ships and magic-powered guns. Almost every citizen is a high mage, and you can think of it as a mix between fantasy and sci-fi. Apunkalypse. World have gone through global catastrophe, man-made or natural, and usual society doesn't exist anymore. This is followed by the emergence of different tribes of punks fighting for control over a lawless land. I'm sure you've seen the idea many times. Next we got Atompunk. Stories in Atompunk usually takes inspiration from the Cold War period. Picture settings in a 60s style with retro-looking tech accomplishing futuristic tasks. It's not always the same, but you can spot Atompunk from the jargon, war communism, neo-Soviet stylized environments. These are the core of Atompunk. And its biggest characteristic is an always present societal tension in feared anticipation on the drop of atomic bombs. The go-to reference for this genre is Fallout. Bamboopunk. Bamboopunk stories are usually set in Asia, mostly Vietnam. Bamboo is a very versatile material, and in this genre, it is taken to a sci-fi extreme. So picture technology made out of bamboo, like motorcycles or even mechanoids. Biopunk. Characterized by biological technology, megacorporations, an oppressive and authoritarian government, dystopian societies, genetic engineering, and human augmentation through direct changes in DNA, as opposite to cyber augmentation. My best example is Bioshock. Bronzepunk. A modern Bronze Era, also known as Sandalpunk because back in my days, everyone wore sandals. If like me, you remember those times. The Greeks, the Romans, take them out of their natural habitat and put them in a modern or futuristic society. Give them advanced electoral knowledge and access to refined iron. And that is Bronzepunk, or Sandalpunk, whichever word you prefer. Bugpunk. Let's take normal insects and make them huge and intelligent. This genre is a bit of a mix between Cyberpunk and Biopunk, except not on humans. The bugs may have augmented bodies via bioengineering or cyber augmentations. The stories usually imply alien invasion, or maybe a crazy scientist had way too much fun with them bugs, or maybe the insects naturally evolved. The movie District 9 is a great example. Candlepunk. In this genre, we take medieval era civilization and costumes and put it in a modern or futuristic society. You can picture lords, knights, queens, and kings having a call on Discord, and you pretty much got it. Not sure if I can think of many stories in this genre. Personally, I immediately think of Warhammer. Anyway, next we've got Cattlepunk. This genre takes the steampunk aesthetic and throws it in the Wild West. So we've got your average cowboy, but with slightly better steam-powered technology. Cowboys are awesome, steampunk is awesome, so you can see why it works. Capepunk. Capepunk takes your stereotypical superhero genre and reimagines such a world realistically, more specifically by bringing forward the social, economical, and political impacts of superheroes being a common thing. So we get flawed, much too human superheroes that are just not so good at their job as they try to portray, having just as much blood in the hands as the villains they claim to combat. What people immediately uses as example of Capepunk is The Boys and The Watchmen. In both, the world suffers from superheroes being reckless and insufferably irresponsible. Anyway, next we've got Clockpunk. Commonly mistaken for steampunk, Clockpunk is actually its own genre. Although similar, the biggest difference between the two is that Clockpunk's focused on Renaissance while steampunk's focused on Victorian times. But the main difference is that steam power has not yet been invented in Clockpunk stories. The machinery relies more on clockwork. Everything's mechanical, so picture a lot of gears, a lot of cranking, and Da Vinci designed technologies. Cornpunk. Try to picture a world where corn is what allowed society to evolve. You eat corn and your cancer is cured. Everything needs cornfield to be powered. And yeah, you get the gist. Cyberpunk. In Cyberpunk, we usually get low-life protagonists living in a dystopian society where scientific and technological achievements went too far. resulting in society being on the brink of collapse. Everyone augmented their lives via technology, like mechanical arms, implanted chips in the brain, personal AI, personal robots, you name it. It is the original punk genre that popularized such wording, after a group of writers coined it in the 70s. Dreadpunk. Taking on pre-20th century Gothic aesthetic, this genre focused on Victorian tales and fantasy, characterized by horror and dark narrative. My best example that I can think of is Bloodborne. Decopunk. Deco art is a style of visual arts and architecture that emerged in the 1910s and died off in the 1950s. In Decopunk, we take this time period aesthetic and add in slightly more advanced technology. Stories in this genre are usually set in the middle of some historical events. Desertpunk. After the world was destroyed by man-made or natural cataclysmic events, nothing else remains and the planet is basically a massive lump of sand and dust. So, a massive desert. Best example of this genre is the Mad Max series. Dieselpunk. Similar to Decopunk, in this genre we take 1910s to 1950s technology, more specifically diesel-powered technology, and reimagine it with a futuristic approach. The works made in this genre are usually set in war periods like the World War or the Cold War. Dungeonpunk. Sword and magic. A little similar to Aetherpunk, but in Dungeonpunk we are dealing with dystopian societies and very low-key, much lower magic. It treats magic as normal technology and is used in the narrative to bridge the protagonist into the inner workings of societal problems. Elfpunk. Our traditional mythological characters like elves and fairies are moved from typical rural folklore to modern urban settings. The focus are usually on elves though. They live in slums and the subjects in this genre are usually about racism, different cultures, xenophobia, you get it. Point is to talk about these subjects without using real-life equals. The best example I can think of is Onward by Pixar, but I don't think it qualifies because usually Elfpunk is pretty grimdark. Furpunk. Humanity is gone for whatever reason, and in this genre, animals evolved to take over the world and reassemble society. Best example of this genre is Zootopia, and well, you get it. Furries by all means, rejoice. Formicapunk. This genre visualizes 70s culture and technology if prevailed to modern times. Also known as cassette futurism, it is characterized by the aesthetic, the lack of powerful technology like cell phones and computers, and as its secondary name suggests, the main way to store and transfer data is cassette tapes. Gothicpunk. Similar to Dreadpunk, this genre is set in urban environments, only way more gothic. Monsters lurk in the night and sometimes they may have control over humanity, treating us like cattle. They're playthings, characterized by dark themes and a horror vibe. Huh? Yeah, exactly like in Berserk. Hopepunk. The complete opposite of Gothicpunk. Hopepunk is all about cuteness, kindness, and wholesomeness. It is characterized by dystopian societies where a group of kind radicals fight for positive change in society. Works in this genre tries to pass a message that fighting and caring for something requires bravery, and in a society full of doomers, activism through hope, kindness, and positivity is somehow a political act. Icepunk. This genre tries to visualize if a planet went through an ice age in modern or semi-modern times. Again, my best example is a game I played named Frostpunk. Lacepunk. This genre is characterized by fiction set in a stylized reimagination of the 7th or 18th century, the Age of Reason, the Age of Pirates, and Great Navigations. Usually the stories are about futuristic pirates in the sea. Lunarpunk. Lunarpunk aesthetic is all about spiritualism, horoscope, witchcraft, nature, renewable energy, the circle of life, and a positive view of the future. Lunarpunk stories are usually set in utopian societies with a focus on nightlife, where it is safe to wander around and there won't be no need for cops to disturb you, nor will there be dangerous people looking out for you. Lunarpunk has its origins and is inspired by Solarpunk, which we'll talk about more later. Mannerspunk. Try to picture Regency period gone punk. If you can, that's Mannerspunk. The core of Mesopunk is to have elegancy and manners as the two most important values in society, and to then picture how that would affect society from behavior to fashion and everything in between. Mesopunk. Basically, Mesoamerican societies taken to a sci-fi extreme. Picture Mayan, Aztec, or some other old Mesoamerican society. Reimagine them, their costumes, and their technology with a futuristic view. Mythpunk. In this one, classic folklore like mages, werewolves, vampires, necromancers, warriors, elves, fairies, old gods, and the new are taken on a hypermodern approach. Nanopunk. Nanopunk refers to worlds where nanotechnology and bio-nanotechnology comprises society and is widely in use. Being the predominant forces in society, the stories are not necessarily focused on how the nanotech works, but rather the impacts of it in society. Oceanpunk. Similar to Desertpunk, the world have gone through cataclysmic catastrophe, but instead of leaving it as a massive desert, the ocean engulfed the land. So now people have to either live underwater or roam the wasteland in boats. Post-Cyberpunk. While the cyberpunk genre is set in a dystopian society in the brink of collapse, post-cyberpunk is focused on the aftermath of all that. Society prevailed, and the whole previous point of a dystopia is thrown out the window. Plaguepunk. As the name suggests, this genre is centered around a collapsing society going through a plague. The stories are inspired by the Black Death, adapted to a modern setting. Radiumpunk. Similar to Atompunk and Decopunk, Radiumpunk depicts 20th century societies powered up by radium, like this jetpack you are seeing here. It makes up for pretty cool art, and yes, I also love warm radiation on my skin. Raypunk. Raypunk is like a mix of a bunch of genres. We get steam machinery, advanced technologies, and some very low-key magic all in one. Usually the stories take inspiration from the Cold War, the space race, or the beginning of the computer era or similar, because works in this genre takes on subjects like questioning societal quick development of questionable technologies, uncertainty about the future, and overall it's pretty cool to be immersed in a world where we have old technology coexisting alongside way too advanced ones. Rococo Punk. Rococo is a style of architecture, fashion, decorations, and paintings, and Rococo Punk makes it, well, you guessed it, modern. So imagine how it'd be like if Rococo never went out of fashion and is still how people dress like today, even the low-life punks. Silkpunk. Silkpunk takes old dynasty Asian technologies, culture, and mythologies, mainly from China, throw in some steampunk aesthetics to add to the flavor, let it cook in semi-modern times, and you've got yourself a full plate. Silkpunk stories usually are about tradition, rebellion, resistance, reappropriation, and just really cool looking. Solarpunk. In this one, we try to envision utopian societies that manage to achieve a sustainable future and live connected with nature as a community. In Solarpunk, humanity developed technology and itself alongside nature. The solar in the name refers to solar energy as the main choice for renewable energy. Works in this genre are all about optimism, the future, politics, rejection to the idea of climate doomerism, an anti-capitalist agenda, animal rights, colonialism, humanity's purpose. It is often compared to, while also considered to be the complete opposite of Lunarpunk and Terrapunk. Steampunk, the only one as popular as Cyberpunk. In Steampunk we take 19th century costumes, architecture, and technology and reimagine it if it was never gone out of fashion. Usually the stories on this genre are set on an alternative Victorian era or the Industrial Revolution, though it is also very common for writers to create a brand new universe that similarly employs steam power. A simple trick to spot steampunk is to look for visible screws, gears, clockwork, and steam machinery accomplishing modern tasks. To me, it's one of the best looking punk genres. Like, I love how this robot looks. What do you think? Stonepunk. We've been through the Bronze Age, the Ice Age, but we couldn't miss the Stone Age. And Stonepunk is just that. What if humanity was advanced from day one? And let's try to picture a civilization that uses and follows Neolithic era costumes and technologies. In Stonepunk, we visualize items used today made out of resources that were available and more or less consistent with the time period. And what do you get? Well, the Flintstones. Swordpunk. Take out your pistol right now. Oh wait. Now throw it in the trash because that's where it belongs. In Swordpunk, swords are better and the only weapons to choose. Stories can be modern or futuristic, and if that's the case, try to picture really advanced sci-fi swords with, I don't know, pathfinding, life tracking, nanotechnology, AI, a nanoreactor, 6 consoles, 10 computers, a bunch of wires, speakers, antenna, satellite connection. Your sword could be a hologram. Imagine a robot with multiple arms for swords. Bro, the sword could even generate passive income and take your wife and children. In my head, what I think could potentially classify as swordpunk is Zelda, but I don't think anyone has ever called it that. Anyway, next we've got Terrapunk. Another solarpunk clone. Except in Terrapunk we replace the communist and humanistic ideals with capitalism. For example, it is still pro-clean energy, aka solar, but there's not the same equal care towards Earth and the environment. Terrapunk argues that such advanced humans can and should always terraform as many different planets as we possibly can, because exploration, expansion, and curiosity is only human. It is greatly centered on the individual as opposite to humanity as a whole. Terrapunk is pro-market and argues that evolving humanity alongside nature is a waste of resources. Instead, the focus should be on space exploration. Teslapunk. As you can guess from the name, in Teslapunk we take Tesla's designs and studies and reimagine it in a global scale. Imagine if we used his ideas to create modern or futuristic technology. This genre is all centered on 18th and 19th pioneers of electricity and tries to picture what it looked like if they had single-handedly steered the future of humanity. To me, it's one of the coolest looking punk genres. Well, for the last one, we've got Biopunk. This one's origin is kinda weird. It was coined because some people, for whatever reason, didn't want to call Dishonored a steampunk game. So the term Biopunk was generated to refer to the game's genre. Because in Dishonored, whale oil is used as the main source of energy as opposed to steam power. And Biopunk tries to imagine similar universes but with a focus on seamen hunting down sea monsters to get their resources, while taking inspiration and actively trying to replicate its honored vibe. Think grayish colors and a pretty depressive ambience. And there you have it, all the punk genres. If all the 3 of you watching this right now enjoyed this, thank you. I'm getting out of here. Bye.